Welcome everybody back to another episode of Kinky Politics.
Woohoo!
Today we're going to be talking about what the fuck is that? We're going to be talking about a few different things that just have happened recently that just make us think, what the fuck is that?
Thank you. Thank you. I am Kai. He is Chris. And we are back again for another amazing week of Kinky Politics. And you're right, this particular topic, what the fuck is that? I'd love to kick this off in talking about, I just learned his name, Screech from Saved by the Bell, Dustin Diamond. Am I right? Am I right? Yes.
Screech, aka Dustin Diamond.
Yes, exactly. He died. He passed away of some kind of cancer. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but a particular form of aggressive cancer. And he announced that he had cancer. And then shortly after that, died. I think it was only like a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks at the most. He died, but I know that he was in stage 4 of that cancer and was receiving treatment and then just suddenly died. He kind of had this interesting career where he was sort of hated on when he first came on the scene. I feel like in a really dramatic way, or when I say first came on the scene, I mean like became popular by Saved by the Bell, because he was the dork and he was annoying and stuff already. But then after he kind of got older, Saved by the Bell was over and everything, people started to talk about like how rude and brash and over the top he was and how much of a mouth he had on him. And I kind of attribute that to him always being the underdog and being the dork and just kind of wanting to get out there and be different and not be known by how I was a dork on Saved by the Bell. Yeah. But then he got into porn and it was like, no one was expecting that. But with a name like Dustin Diamond, why not? Right?
Sounds like an ideal porn name.
I think so. And, apparently he was packing heat. I never have either. I've never seen a clip or
was he the one that did the porn with the WWE chick, China? You remember her?
Yeah, I remember her, but I have no idea. Did she die?
Yeah. She died like 10 years ago or something like that, drug overdose or something. But I think both of them, I think that he was the guy that was in the porn with her.
Was he?
I think so. Because they were dating. I could be wrong.
They were dating?
Nah, I could be. I might be mixing that up. I could be thinking. I might be wrong.
Anyway, there you go. So sad, but what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Yeah. I love Saved by the Bell. I grew up on Saved by the Bell, even though I wasn't really a late 80s child. I was more of like late 90s child. But, my older brother, would watch Saved by the Bell all the time. And I loved all those characters. And I liked the fact that he dated Lisa. I was like, oh, huh?
I know he tried, but did he ever get her?
Yeah, he did. He eventually went on like one date or something. Wow. They kissed. You don't remember?
That sounds vaguely familiar. It's been a while. I remember the pursuit of Lisa. That was obviously a theme. I don't remember him ever actually getting her.
Can we talk about how those two kind of had like sad lives and careers? Like Lisa went insane.
Yeah, she had like some kind of, her mom was like, what, Mormon or some kind of weird religious thing. Like, don't mean to offend any Mormons, but it might have even been Mormonism, might have been Pentecostal or something like that. But her mom was like super religious, and she had like some kind of mental disorder. Like Lisa, yes. I don't know if it's bipolar. She's bipolar, right? Yeah. Yes. Man, I had such a huge crush on Lisa Turtle when I was a kid. Like, she was my favorite off Saved by the Bell. Like, it wasn't were the Jesse and Kelly? No. They were like, no. Lisa.
Really? Lisa. Yeah. She's a babe, a mega babe. And I always thought to myself, why what the fuck is that? Why does she have to be with Screech? Why can't she get with any of the hotties? Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal here?
Yeah. Looking
But
back at it, that kind of seems like some maybe racist shit.
absolutely some
Like
definitely racist shit.
she was so hot, but yeah, Zach and what's Mario Lopez's character's name? Fuck, I can't remember.
Slater.
Yeah, Slater, AC Slater. Like
Yeah.
neither one of them were noticing how hot she was. Like,
I'm sure they were, but yes, it is a race. It was a racism thing. And I'm so glad we're kind of like moving on. But like, man, yeah, I mean, that sucked to just have like the dork and basically one of the hottest of those girls. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was just as hot as any of them.
yeah,
But why did she have to be with the dork? Like, what the fuck is that? But even more so, like, tragic is the fact that Dustin Diamond, Screech died, and she is bipolar, and she has I don't know if bipolar is it. I think she might even be, I could be wrong, but schizophrenic.
yeah, I
But
think so.
yeah, it's totally like changed her face. Like
Yeah,
you can kind of see like how lost she looks in the face. And I don't think she had any kind of like drug addictions or anything. Like I really think like she was just she's been sick with this disease, and it's changed her appearance.
yeah,
um but she talks about it, and she talks about like suffering, with this illness, and it's like, man, that's so sad. What the fuck is that? It's tragic.
yeah. It's really sad,
Yeah. But
especially
growing
with
up
like
with,
people our age. Because
huh?
I said, especially when it's somebody my age or like our age, like because it kind of just lets you know, like this could happen to you. Like
Yeah.
you could go into the because I just got a physical, like my yearly checkup or whatever, like 2 weeks ago, and it's like that. That's just something that's on my mind now because you see people our age like getting like Chadwick Boseman. Like I think he's only like 4 or 5 years older than me. Like, and I didn't know that he was battling cancer for years. Like,
Yeah, he's 42 when he passed away.
yeah, he'd been carrying, but he had been battling that cancer for like what 4, 5, 6 years, kept it a secret somehow. Like, I don't even know how. Like the entire time he was filming Black Panther and like other movies, like he was battling cancer and
Mm.
like on the low, like not like I don't know if like his friends and family knew. I don't know if his cast members knew or like I don't know. That's just crazy to me. Like how somebody could be going
Yeah.
through that and like
I'm pretty sure his immediate family knew, but he didn't want he didn't want that to drive, he didn't want that to be the reason why his career maybe ended or he wasn't sought after for particular projects. He didn't want to be, um, he didn't want his, the illness to stop him until it just like finally stopped him. But that's why he didn't talk about, that's why he didn't share it,
yeah,
with anyone, for fear that it could get out and he could potentially lose parts or be treated differently, which is so admirable, in terms of his character.
yeah,
I could not get over that when he passed away. Like, so yes, cheers to what the fuck is that?
yeah.
Absolutely. But Saved by the Bell was it was iconic. It was
Oh yeah.
iconic. Um
So cheesy to
I
look back on it now, but dude, when I was like, I mean, all the way even like in high school, I mean, Saved by the Bell, I feel like is more like a show aimed at younger, like maybe like middle school, elementary school kids. But even
Even
in
though it
high,
was a high school show, right?
yeah,
It was, yeah.
but even in high school and even in college, like if I would like wake up and like, I'm eating breakfast before class, I start flipping through the channels, like what's on. It's like Saved by the Bell's on. Fuck it. Let's just watch some Saved by the Bell. Because it was always like you could always watch an episode of Saved by the Bell and it's just kind of like makes you chuckle or laugh or like something's funny about it. It's just
Yeah, and also it was like wholesome.
yeah.
And also everyone was mega hot.
I
Every,
will agree with the female cast. I can't speak so much for the men. Obviously, you'll take that one.
woo, my fave was Zach. Oh, so hot, so hot. He had the haircut.
Oh yeah.
I loved all of his friggin' talks
Do
to
you remember the
camera.
massive cell phone?
Yes.
The
Yes.
size of your face.
Yes. I love that shit. You
Yeah.
know? I loved when he would, just break the fourth wall and be like, "What was that? Oh my God, I'm in detention," type shit, and I'd be like, you're so dreamy. And then it was like, man, after Saved by the Bell, where did he go?
Yeah, he like disappeared for like 10, 15 years. And then there was some show, I can't remember, it was like a cop show. I don't
Yeah.
remember the name of it, but he popped up on there like midway through its run for like its final 4 or 5 seasons. And I never watched that show, but I do remember like reading people giving it like good reviews, like his character and like what he brought to the show and like his performance. But since then,
Yeah.
you haven't seen him in anything that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I forget what the name of that show was, but yeah, it definitely had like a Miami Vice type of feel.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
can picture the guy's face who was like the main character. It was like some older middle-aged white guy, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't
I
remember
can't remember.
like the
But honestly, all of them, like, except for Jessie, I was always like, I don't care to see her in anything. I also didn't really care to see AC Slater in anything until he cut that mullet, boy. And then I'm like, whoa, Mario Lopez. We're talking about Mario Lopez. We're not talking about AC Slater. We're
no.
talking about Mario Lopez.
Oh yeah, because he was on the
The
cover of
Adonis.
like Men's Health or something like that, just shredded. Like, and he's apparently like a big health nut, like he always has been. Like, and obviously living in LA that helps. But he's dude guy had like 4% body fat, just I mean shredded.
Yeah.
And of course
He's
those dimples don't hurt either.
right. He truly is an Adonis. He is an Adonis. And you know, I know that he's, I mean, obviously with the last name Lopez, you think he's got some Latino heritage, or at least I would assume it's Latino, but he's one of the few actors who has Asian features.
Yeah,
Um, you know, so not typical. He doesn't, to me, he doesn't look typically like, you know, I don't know. I sound ridiculous saying this, like typically this and typically that, but like he has Asian, he looks like he's got some Asian features. And I think that we rarely see that in the media where we see an Asian appearing looking type of man
yeah.
who is adored for his looks, his body, his physique, and
Yeah.
super like must be a super gratifying thing for him, but also for many people, um, it's a gratifying thing. But I always wanted for Zach to pop off on a good career. I wanted for Tiffany Amber Thiessen or whatever her name is.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yes.
I always wanted them to pop off, and they never did. They
That's really
never did. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's really weird how that happens because like some people are like achieve a level of fame like as a teenager or like really young actress, and they're just bombarded with like roles the rest of their life. Like they never just because of like one role they had when they were like young, and then others they just disappear, and you never really know like is it because they chose to like step away from the career? Have they just been doing stage acting for all this time? Because that's a thing actors do, or is it just because for some reason nobody will hire them? Like with Screech, like I know Screech probably could have had like a career as like popping up in little cameos and like movies and stuff like that for the last 20 years if he wanted to, but obviously as you mentioned before, like he had an abrasive personality apparently behind the scenes and like had done some things that kind of like maybe made it to where people didn't want to work with him.
Mhm.
But that's kind of the frustrating part is like somebody like we were talking about off air, Topanga. Like I feel like because I feel like in real life her name is Danielle Fisher. I could be wrong about that.
You're 100% right. And I'm so mad you know all the names of these people. Fact check. If anybody wants to know the name of anyone or anything, ask Chris. Chris probably remembers it and Chris probably knows. So
Yeah,
there you go.
90s only though. That doesn't extend into the 2000s. But
Fair enough.
I feel like if she called up, like if she just put it out there, like on Twitter, social media, or something like, "Hey, I want to get back in the game. Give me some roles. I feel like she would be getting some roles, like pop, like a little cameo role in a sitcom or like, something. Well, wait a minute. She's in that Girl Meets World show, isn't she?
What?
So
Oh, they
uh,
revamped it.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
Topanga and Corey had a daughter, and it's about the daughter, right?
Yes.
So she's
Yes.
in that, right? I haven't
Yes.
seen it, but I don't even know if it's still on. I think it's probably canceled by now because it came out years ago, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have a theory about that. I really do think that a lot of child actors don't child meaning like, you know, basically just at the cusp of high school and younger.
Mhm.
They don't tend to continue on because, you know, they lack personalities and like usually they're just hired because they like are really cute, like
Yeah,
super cute, you know? And so they don't really have the chops to do a lot of acting. And if they do have the chops, um, it's hard to sustain a career in the industry so long and not be taken over by the industry. Like, for
yeah.
example, what's the I was about to say Lucy Liu, but it's not Lucy Liu, the girl who Drew Barrymore.
Oh, she got a talk show now.
Yeah, she does, but she's done well in her career
Yeah,
where she was able to kind of to get off all the, get off all of the drugs and all of the addictions that she was on at a young age because she was in the industry
yeah.
and clean herself up. You know, it's sad because like people like Lindsay Lohan, people like Hillary Duff, people like
Was Hillary
Britney
Duff a kid?
Spears, huh?
Was Hillary Duff a kid actress?
Yes.
Oh,
Hillary
I
Duff was a
heard
kid
her more
actor.
as an adult actress.
No, I have never watched anything she's done as an adult.
She
Um,
won Oscars or something like that. She's like a really talented.
Hillary Duff?
No, my bad. I was thinking Hillary Swank.
Oh my God. I'm like, Hillary
Oh,
Duff?
Hillary Duff. Yes, she was Disney pretty girl. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So,
My
you
bad.
know, they it, you know, so that's my first thing. So like with the child actors, again, anybody age like, just at the cusp of high school and younger, they lack a lot of the personality and don't really have a lot of the acting chops to sustain a career so that when they get older, you know, they sort of have this defined personality and it doesn't match up with what they were as children and they outgrow that cuteness, that innocence that they had before. And so we're like, well, what are they? You know? And like, do you even act well? Like, I was hoping for Devon Sawa, the heartthrob of the century for me, you know. I love Devon Sawa. I loved him in all of his shits, but particularly Casper. Loved him in Casper. And I loved the little bowl cut that he had. You know, that was a time of like JTT and all those fucking
Oh yeah.
guys. And he did like Final Destination
Mm.
and I don't know. I feel like that was it. Like there were a lot of Final Destinations though. Weren't there like 5 or something like that?
They might still be making them for all I know. I stopped watching at like 2 or 3.
Right, right. Gosh, those were horrific. But he would, I think that's my theory. So what the fuck is
Actually,
that?
I saw an article today. Kind of reminds me of you just reminded me of it. So I never watched this show, but maybe you did. Buffy the Vampire Slayer with
Yes,
Sarah
I
Michelle
watched that.
Gellar. Okay,
Yes.
so the guy who was like the director of the show, I don't know if he like created the show, but he was the director and like his name's he's a big name in Hollywood, Joss Whedon. I think he's done multiple other shows, but he did the first 2 Avenger movies. And he's done a lot of other like those kind of movies. He's a big name director. But just today or yesterday, one of the girls who was on the show, I don't know her name. I'd never heard of her, and I didn't watch the show. Her name was Carrie something. Her real life name, Carrie Campbell or something weird like that. That's not a weird name, but Carrie was her first name. She posted something on there talking about like how toxic the environment on that show was, and just how abusive he was, and like how because like these people on that show were like in their teens or maybe very early 20s. This was their first job, like their first real acting um, options. And she posted this thing on Instagram like talking about it, and then all of her castmates like Sarah Michelle Gellar, um, the girl who played Sarah Michelle Gellar's sister on the show. She's went on to do some other shows. I remember she was in Euro Trip. I think she's got like a redhead. Her name's
Oh, yeah, she
Michelle
wasn't the sister.
Trachtenberg or something weird like that.
She was a smart friend. She
But it
was a
was like
smart
every girl that was on that show immediately replied and like retweeted or reposted that and was like, yes, girl, I 100% agree. That show was toxic as fuck. 20 years later, we're still trying to process the abuse we suffered on that show.
friend.
And I kind
Wow.
of wonder, like with kid actors in particular, because kids in general just do not understand what abuse is, or like what power dynamics are, or like what's toxic and what's not. So, I feel like, especially in Hollywood, there has, Macaulay Culkin talks a lot about it because he was one of those people who's like an iconic kid actor, and everybody thought he was like fucking crazy because he stepped away from it. But you hear that dude do interviews now, and it's like he sounds like he was ahead of his time. Like it just sounds like he understood, like if he stayed in Hollywood, like he would probably be suicidal. Like he would probably end up like the Coreys from the 80s. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just, it's really, it's really sad that you see that happen so many times to kids, like
Mm.
kid actors, like, and a lot of times I feel like we want to blame, whether it be money or whether it be just Hollywood or whatever, but it's like, at what point do you start blaming the adults that are
Mm.
in that industry that are doing that to these kids?
Yeah.
Instead of blaming these adults, like if you're a director who like tormented children on a movie or a TV set, instead of like shunning them from the industry and like being like, no, we don't want that, they just keep promoting them. Like that
Mm.
Joss Whedon guy, he's of course obviously refused to comment and all that stuff, but and what started the whole thing was not, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was like a black actor on Justice League. It's not a movie I've seen, but they got the Marvel and the DC movies. So he did the two Avenger movies, which are Marvel, but then he also stepped in to do the Justice League movie, which is kind of like the Avengers for DC comic world. Because the director of that movie, he had to step away because somebody in his family died. I don't remember if it was his mom or a wife. Somebody had an illness, so he had to step away. So they brought in Joss Whedon to do the reshoots and finish it up and everything. And there's a black guy in the movie who played a character called Cyborg. I haven't seen it. If you've seen it, hopefully you know who that is. But he complained about Joss Whedon and the toxic environment he created on set.
What did they say was particularly toxic with Josh?
That's kind of the hard part, is because um, uh, it's the same like, and the crazy thing is like actors have a union. Like people forget about that. They have the Screen Actors Guild. They have a union, but I don't know what the hell their union is doing if it's not protecting them from toxic, retribution and like
Doesn't.
like
It
what is the
doesn't.
purpose of their union? It doesn't seem to function as any. It doesn't seem to do anything. Like I
That's
don't.
why I haven't joined it.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was optional. I thought you had to join the Screen Actors Guild
No.
to act.
You
Oh,
only have to join it if you have like 2 or more serious credits, then it's mandatory that you have to join it.
yeah,
But
that's
because I don't have 2 or more, I'm just eligible,
okay.
and I'm just like, I don't want to pay dues for an organization that I don't feel like fully functions
Yeah,
to protect me.
they don't do anything that a union should do. I'll say that. But these people, like, because Sarah Michelle Gellar just said that, like, her response to that lady's comment was, she supports her, she agrees. I'm not going to comment any further at this time. I'm just focused on raising my family, and she doesn't want to get sucked into all that. But the main reason these people don't speak up is because there's no protection. Like their career can be ended. Like if they speak up, like that's why Harvey Weinstein was able to rape these girls for 20 fucking years,
Yeah.
because they knew if they fucking said a word about it, their career would be over. They would get no more acting roles, and they wouldn't be able to prove that it was because they came out against Harvey Weinstein, because that would be illegal,
Yep.
but there's no way to prove it. And the Screen Actors Guild is worthless and doesn't do anything to protect actors. They don't do anything to protect the integrity of like the industry. I
Mhm.
don't know what their purpose is really, but it's like that's why these people don't come out. And it's like, as kids, especially the crazy thing too with, like, especially with the Macaulay Culkin, you're seeing it with Britney Spears now. Like their parents are basically operating like pimps. Like they don't look at their kid as like, you're my child, I want to protect you. They look at their child as, you're my income. Go make that money.
Right.
Their kid starts complaining and they're like, no,
Yeah.
keep acting.
Well, there's a certain type, like they get to a level, these parents get to a level where they see things and they understand what's going on. And in most cases, I feel that they feel, because they're like, I know my child and I will be with my child and I will protect my child.
Mm,
What I see is not that bad.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what may be okay and permissible for an adult may not fucking be okay for a kid. They may be severely damaged. And I think a lot of times when moms and dads get into show business, they forget that they are dealing with a very formidable child,
Yeah.
you know, after time when they start to see the success and all that. A lot of times I feel like those show parents think that because their kid is so talented or because they're getting so much traction, they forget the fact that they're not very mature,
Mm-hmm.
or that they're not ready to handle some types of scenarios. And I see it all the time because I teach a lot of young kids, you know, who will be very successful, you know, and I see their parents just like go to town with me talking about, no, we need to do this, we need, and I'm just like, bitch, we don't need to do anything,
Yeah.
because your kid may hate you in the end,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I've had some really weird discussions, but you're 100% right. Like the lack of protection for children is crazy. It's crazy, and it's something that we still really need to work on, um outside of just like protecting actors in general or adult actors in general, but kids get really messed up in this stuff. So
It's weird because they're finally starting to step up and protecting women. Like, not like to where they should be, but they're starting to make steps towards protecting women with like some of the stuff they're doing with like sex scenes and stuff like that, right? But they're not talking about kids. Like,
yeah.
how many child actors does Disney have to crank out that become drug addicts and like all that stuff before we start caring about kids? Like, that's it blows my mind. Like
What the fuck is that?
it's like, if my kid told me they wanted to become an actor, my first thought is, no, I'm not encouraging a drug addiction. Like, I that's just what I look at child actors. But then there are people like, I feel like it's Elijah Wood, the Savage brothers, Ben and was
Or no, Ben
no
and
Fred
yeah,
Savage, the guy from the Wonder Years. I've heard them talk about like their parents, because they were obviously child stars. They grew up in Hollywood, and they talked about like how their parents were well aware, because I think their parents maybe were from the industry in some capacity, maybe not like actors, but like somehow behind the scenes. So their parents were well aware of what the industry's
could do.
downfalls could be. So they took great strides to protect their children from the industry and like make sure that they had normal childhoods. Like they kept them. I think if I remember correctly, both of them were talking about like how their parents like made sure they went to school with normal kids, and like, because a lot of times like these kids, they don't even go to school with kids. Like
Correct.
their job is acting. They're basically working like a full-time adult as a kid, and then getting homeschooled like on set, and they're not interacting with people their age. They're not
Yeah.
developing like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And that's part of the thing with these parents, these adults in the industry.
Mm,
They just start to treat them like they're adults,
yeah.
you know, and it's really it's just like, whoa, it's shocking.
I feel like it should be stated, when we say treat them like adults, it means look at them as a cash register, because that's how they treat adults. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like they treat adults like good. They treat
Right.
adults like, you're a source of profit for me. I don't care about your well-being in any way, shape, or form. I just care about how much money you can make for me.
Amen.
Yeah, which has got
What
to be, I don't know. It's got to be, because Common, well, now people know him as an actor, but he once was a rapper. He has one of my favorite lines. Like he's got this song where he's talking about like, the whole song is basically about like, he's talking about like from his perspective what he would feel like it would be like to be a stripper,
Yeah.
basically. And the one line he had that always, it just hit me like a brick to the head when he said it, was he said, being meat every day is devouring.
Mm.
And it made me just think like instantly when he said that, I was like, dude, that's what like actors, actresses, like he's talking about it from being a stripper's perspective, but you know, actors, actresses, like just attractive, I don't know, I feel like attractive women in general, like
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, that's kind of like
Mhm.
I feel like they got to feel that because it's like, I mean, you're like when people are looking at you as like, you know, their source of income and like, it's just, you know, you're
Yeah.
expected to always be basically meat for the industry
Mm.
and it devours your soul. Like, and there's so few people that come out of it the other side. Like, but those people that do, it's just, it's amazing to see like a Drew Barrymore or like, you know, Fred, I know Fred Savage does directing now, or like, if you remember the Wonder Years, the girl, what was her name? Winnie Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't remember her. I don't remember her name in real life. It's Danica something, but she's crazy hot now. But she's like moved into like behind the scenes. Like she doesn't
Okay.
want to be in front of the camera anymore. She wants to do directing and like producing and you know that kind of stuff where you're not basically a piece of meat. And it's
Mm.
like, I mean, I don't know. You've done acting for how long have you been acting? Like 15 years now at this point, right? 20 years? Not like professionally, but like, you know, theater and stuff like that.
Theater's professional.
Well, yeah, but I don't mean like I mean non-paid work, like because I don't know how much of your acting has been paid versus unpaid and stuff like that. But I know you've been acting for a long time now.
Yeah, I've been acting since high school. So
Okay.
since my last year of high school.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, but I came into the industry old. You know,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, it was old, and I wasn't focused on being an actor until basically my last year of college.
Yeah. So just full disclosure, me and Kai met in college, and Kai was a political science major when I met her. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but the apartment complex I used to live at Purdue, I remember we had a computer, like a little computer lab area where you could go. And I walked into the computer lab and you were in there. And I don't remember why you were there because I don't remember if you lived there or if you were dating somebody who lived there, but you were in my computer lab. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the girl I remember from B Dubs, you know, had a couple friends with. I started
Wait,
talking to you.
for real?
This was the
What,
summer before you went out to California for UC Irvine.
and where was this complex? What is the name of it?
I don't remember. It was on the it was off campus, like north, what 231, whatever that road was. I can't remember the name of it. But you know how you
Uh,
start driving north of campus
was
and
it next to the Walmart?
yeah, yeah. That's where
I lived there.
okay, well you live there. I didn't know that. But
That's why I was there.
yeah, so we lived in the same complex. Small world. But I walked in the computer lab and you were there and I was like, "Oh, this is the girl from, you know, that I knew." And I was like, at the time I had a big crush on you. So
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I wanted to talk to you." So I went over and just struck up a conversation and I remember you telling me that you were going to UC Irvine to get a
Hmm.
master's in theater. And I was just like, "Oh, wow, that's crazy." And we just kind of talked about it for a while and you know, once you moved out there, we kind of stayed in touch of social media here and there, but
Yeah.
um th- you know, you've been in acting for a while. And
Yeah.
I remember when you moved out to California, um, the thing that I remember because when I moved to California a few years later, I kind of reached out to you because I thought you were in LA, but then I found out you were a ways away, so it didn't quite work out. But I remember
Yeah,
seeing
I
your
was in
pictures.
Irvine. So it was an hour away.
Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't have a car, so that was a lifetime away for me. But I remember when you moved out to California, you had lost a lot of weight. And
Mhm.
it's not like you were big before, because I remember like when I saw you in college, I thought you were just like a, you know, naturally kind of like I don't even know how much you weighed or any of that, but you lost a lot of weight when you moved to California.
We
And
did.
I wasn't sure like if that was like industry pressure because you felt like you
Mm.
necessarily had to, because
Yeah.
if anybody who's ever lived in LA, it's the skinny girl capital of America. Like,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
you're
skinny
right.
everywhere. Like,
Yeah, you're right. For me, no, I don't know that we ever talked about this, but I moved out to LA. I was thick and I was happy to be thick. I was very comfortable being thick. I felt very good in my body. I was in a very rigorous 3-year program where 4 times a week we would work out 3 hours at a time.
what?
I'm not kidding. It was a physically rigorous program. as well as, you know, it was obviously mentally challenging, emotionally challenging, all that stuff, right? So there's that. Secondly, after the first year, I got H. pylori. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. It is basically the bacteria that leads to stomach cancer.
Oh shit.
And the way they usually detect that is through a blood test. And so I was getting sick and sicker and sicker and sicker because the doctor would ask me to get these blood tests. I would get these blood tests and everything looked normal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looked fine. So she was like, I think you're just stressed out. I think you're blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, after like 3 or 4 months where I'm like, I'm getting worse, like my stomach literally, it literally feels like someone is like you know, like someone's like taking a washcloth and my stomach is the washcloth and they're just wringing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is horrible to eat. I feel good for 5 seconds after eating, and then it's like my stomach just like dies.
Mm.
Um, and so I started to stop eating. I started to lose weight. And then she's like, you know what? Let's do a different type of sample. So we took like a poop sample. And then that's when she was like, holy crap, you have full blown H. pylori. Like you need to be, she called me on a Sunday, my doctor.
Damn.
Like, you need to go on medication immediately. I'm going to, you know, put this prescription into the pharmacy so you can get it today. It was a 2-week thing of like 8 different antibiotics. I have never been in so much pain taking those antibiotics I could only take it for 12 days. I couldn't take it for the full 14 days because it was just so aggressive, these antibiotics. But after that, obviously I had lost a bunch of weight, and then it was sort of like starting to eat again, and everything affected my stomach and everything. So then I had to like retrain myself on like what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, what may affect me. And I had to slowly build up a tolerance again where I could eat like normal food, right? But so it was hell. So I didn't actually lose weight for, you know, for the industry or anything like that, or because I was dissatisfied with myself. It was because I was unwell at the end of the day. And then, you know, once I got to a certain like level of eating, the working out all the time just kind of cross canceled everything because I was eating so clean.
Yeah.
You know, and then working out 3 hours at a time, 4 days a week. It was just like I was withering away. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that's what happened. That's what happened. But it was actually really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Because when I graduated, I was like this big.
Oh yeah.
And so when Showcase came around and I had to, you know, get an agent, and casting directors from LA and New York were coming in to see our showcases, you know, we were working with Harvard's other graduate class. I was like one of 2 people from both of those graduating classes who had offers left and right from CBS, NBC to do different shit. Okay. And in terms of managers and agents, I couldn't tell you the amount of people who were like, sign with me immediately. It is so fucking crazy. You're really bang on with it when they say like, you got to be thin to win. The skinnier, the better. It's crazy and completely debilitating at the same time. Cause I definitely was like, I don't feel good in my body. Like I didn't feel like attractive, especially when I like the year after graduating. Like I didn't have a good self-esteem. Like I didn't really know, you know, I didn't fit into my clothes very nicely. Like everything looked like kind of boyish and straight, and you know, I didn't have any curves anymore. So I didn't feel myself, you know, and I kept getting typecast into doing auditions that were like the sexy secretary or, you know, the sexy vixen. And as much as like, yes, I am sexy and I like, you know, wearing sexy things and stuff like that, there are people who are actually like super duper sexy and lead with those qualities. You know what I mean? I'm kind of quirky and, you know, not like that, So I would go into auditions and there'd be like these mega fucking babes who were just like so fucking sexy and oozed like I am, the sexiest person alive type of shit. That when it came to me auditioning, they were like, why are you here? You know what I mean? And I'd be like, honestly, I don't know. And they'd be like, you're so funny. And I'd be like, shut the I know I'm funny, you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't come here to be funny. I came here to be sexy.
Have you ever
And
tried
I
comedy
can't,
roles?
huh?
Have you ever auditioned for any comedy roles?
Yeah,
Okay.
all the time, all the time. But it's fun. It was funny because when I would audition for those comedy roles, they'd be like, she's too sexy for this. She's not, so it would be so basically what I'm saying is the skinniness was really hard for me in Hollywood, really hard. And
So, oh, wow, that's interesting because I always thought that you could, well, because I had a girlfriend when I moved to LA. My reason I moved to LA was because I moved to LA with my girlfriend, and then she tried to pursue the career in the entertainment industry. And, I heard her struggles. Dude, it was fucking crazy. Like, a studio, I can't remember if it was CBS or ABC, one of them, they paid for her to get a boob job because she was a very attractive lady. She was thin. She was thin and attractive, but they thought that she didn't have big enough boobs. Like she needed to have bigger boobs to play the sexy role. So they paid for her to get a boob job that she didn't want for just the crazy thing. They paid for her to get a boob job that she didn't want just so she could for a pilot. And then they ended up not picking up the pilot and she was stuck with the boob job she didn't want. And she was like talking to me, crying about it, like how much she hated it and all this stuff. And I was just like, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, and I'm sure thousands and millions of other people have had this conversation with relatives that have pursued the career. But then I was just asking her, like, why are you pursuing this? Like, if this thing is doing this to your soul, like if this is making you feel this way, why do you keep pursuing this career? Like, if this is the industry and this is what it is. And she was telling me about stories about like, the parties you get invited up into the hills and like the sleazy fucking guys that are trying to fuck you, promising you they're going to help your career, all this shit. And I'm just like, why would you? And she had a aerospace engineering degree from like one of the biggest like engineering schools in the country. I'm like, you don't need to pursue this. You are a brilliant, intelligent woman that can do anything you want. Why are you pursuing this meat market? Like, and I could never figure it out. And eventually, thankfully, she got out of it. I think she's married, maybe has a family now, but it's just such a sad thing to see. And I'm super happy it didn't like do that to you. But I always kind of wondered, but we weren't like good friends. We were kind of like people that knew each other, but like we weren't friends to the level where I could ask you like, hey, did you lose all this weight for Hollywood? Because you were fine as fuck before. Like, don't let these people tell you got to lose weight. And you see
I
it so many
appreciate
times.
that.
Like,
Thank you. No, I think a lot of people had that question.
mm,
I don't think you were the only one who was saying that. I think a lot of people, even like members of my church,
mm-hmm.
would go to my dad and be like, "Is she?"
Yeah.
My dad would be like, "What?" And it was so bad because then my mom would like take all the brunt for it. She'd be like, "I just feel like I don't know what's happening, but you just need and I'd feel so bad, and I'd be like, "Mom, I promise you, like you've seen this, like nothing's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just this is what's happening. I'm the same. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I remember my parents also really worried about it too. So yeah, thank God, no, I wasn't swept up with that. But on that note, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Please
What
sign
the
us
fuck
off.
is that? All right, guys. We're going to catch you next week with another episode. Until then, stay safe, be good, and hopefully you get the coronavirus vaccine.
Oh my god. Orange is not my new black.